I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 10. Now, I don't know about you, but I cannot believe that it is already episode 30. Yes, and with episode 30, it means that it is World Download Day. So if you're a supporter of any tier, whether that is on Twitch, over on Patreon, here as a YouTube member, or as a Discord premium member, be sure to get your world download and, well, explore this world for yourself. Everything will be handled over on the Discord, so check out the links down in the description below if you're interested. And it's now time, I think, to get on with today's video. And man, oh man, is today's video going to be, well, quite enchanting, because we are going to be doing quite a bit of enchanting today. And that is primarily due to the time in the bottle. This kind of gives me an excuse to do a little bit of enchanting. Now, the time in the bottle does require a few very specific items, like an Isium pickaxe, which we haven't gotten yet, but it's all stuff to work on. And Neptunium is something that is going to have to be fished up. And so it would be good to have some enchants ready to go when needed for this. And we're also going to need enchant setup and infusion setup from Apotheosis in the future for the All the Mods Star. So I think today would be the perfect video for that setup. Now, just to kind of go over the need for something like what we're going to be working on today. Well, the need would be to take all enchants that we technically grab from the world, and we can funnel them into our planergistic system and then use AE to funnel them into something like an enchantment library. Not only does the enchantment library have a ton of functionality and makes enchanting absolutely effortless, it means that we can then automate enchanted books and feed it into this library. So today we're going to be dabbling with some of the mods that we've already got set up. For example, Industrial Foregoing is actually going to play a pivotal role, allowing us to automate enchantments. And it can also do more than just automate enchantments. It can allow us to automate potion brewing. Now, I am going to need an area for our enchanting to take place, and this is where I'm going to utilize Ars portals. This is a pretty cool thing that we can do. We can go ahead and actually make portals to just about anywhere and cross dimensionally, and we can customize the look of our portal by using Mirror Weave as the actual block for the portals. So hear me out. I'm going to go ahead and place some just like this, and this is what this whole corridor is all about. And I'm going to leave these trapdoors in. Now, we're not going to change the look of this portal just yet, but what I need is a source jar that is next to the portal, and then we need to define the location of this portal. So let me go ahead and use my Eclipse wand here to break into this area. And then I think in one of the corners right here, I'm going to go ahead and set this location by shift right clicking with our warp scroll. And where I'm looking is where we should teleport whenever we travel through this portal. So it's important to keep a note of that location. So all we have to do is have this nearby and just toss this into the frame, and that generates a portal. Now, I'm not a big fan of it looking like this. And also, by the way, if you were to have named that scroll with an anvil, it would actually show the name of where it's going to go. It's probably actually a good idea. How do we break this? Oh, that's right. We have to break one of these blocks. So you know what? I'm going to redo this, but this time I'm going to name that spot with an anvil. And I'll just call it Enchanting for right now. I think this is going to be perfect. And back down into the same area, we are going to need a full source jar. This basically consumes almost the entirety of the source jar to do this operation. So very, very interesting, but it allows us to make custom portals. Now, if you wanted to make this portal cross-dimensional, it does require a little bit more. You actually have to make it into a stabilized warp scroll if it is a cross-dimensional version, and then it would work. So let me go ahead and place this down. And then now that we have this, you can see it says Enchanting, so it tells me where it's going. This is a really, really cool feature that I want to continue to use. And we can actually change this look to something much, much more fitting. And that's just by right-clicking it with the Dominion wand. We get this much better portal, in my opinion. Now that that's done, I can go ahead and I can do something like this tuff. Right? We can grab some tuff from here, and I can just right-click this, and the entire portal will turn into the tuff. Now, unfortunately, I can't customize like every single block on here. That would be really nice, but unfortunate that we can't do that. And so let's put this to use. I'm going to place a stair right here just to make it easy to get in, and notice it teleports me right to that location and the position I was looking. Now, I also like to link these together, and I like to stand right outside and kind of looking out we can go ahead and make another portal that'll allow me to teleport right back to that starting location. And honestly, this is a much better representation of how a portal could look, where it's designed on the outside, where the inside looks like so. And I'll just toss this in just like that. And also you don't have to have the corners in either. So something to definitely note here, we'll change the look of this. And this allows me to change this to, for example, something like calcite, right? And that's so much more fitting. And to see the finished product, all we have to do is fly through here. We teleport out and then we go through here and we're teleported in. Very, very nice in and out. Now, another fun thing that I could do is I could swap out this ceiling right here. I'm actually going to use the exchanging gadget for this. And for all of my folks out there who may feel a little claustrophobic being in this room, well, we can just exchange this roof and it will definitely make it feel a bit more open, gaining access to the skybox. And I don't know about you, but something with this just feels a lot less claustrophobic. I don't know what it is, but it does feel nice. So now for the fun part, basic enchanting. And well, there's a basic setup for enchanting that kind of involves just placing bookshelves all the way around like so. Like that's the basic. I typically like to get a little bit fancy with it, but honestly, this is how it should be set up. But 15 bookshelves, so adding these on top are going to get us to level 30 enchants. That's just what the default is. And if I had something that could actually be enchanted, we'd be able to see level 30 enchants here. But we actually want to go above 30 enchants, and we're going to need to for some of the infusion things that we're going to need to deal with Apotheosis. And so that means upgrading these bookshelves. So let's talk about upgrading these bookshelves. Our first upgrade is going to be into a hell shelf. And this is where I mentioned potion brewing, because this needs potions of regeneration in order to make an upgraded hell shelf. Now, this is going to lead us into another tangent, utilizing industrial foregoing. And this is something that industrial foregoing is kind of okay at, brewing and automating potions. But can we automate it specifically with a pattern provider and use it for just about any potion in the future? And this is going to be all thanks to the potion brewer from industrial foregoing. While this machine can be a little bit janky to set up, it should allow us to automate potions. Now, the way that it works is similar to a normal potion brewing stand. It takes in blaze, and we also are going to need water bottles. Now, thankfully, this machine will auto mix the water bottles. So in the back here, I have an interface that has blaze and water, so we can have that automatically fill these slots. So I'll set the back to pull, and that's going to pull in the blazes. And then I will have the water right here set to pull in the water. That's pretty straightforward. Now the bottles we don't want to deal with just yet, because if I set this pattern to set this machine to automatically output the product into the pattern provider, which we ultimately want to do, it's going to just start sending water bottles out of the machine. And that's not what we want. Instead, we want to actually provide these bottles. And this is where it gets a little bit more complicated when actually providing the water bottles on the actual craft command. Now, explaining how this potion brewer actually works in the first place, well, we're going to need to give it some speed upgrades. This is going to make it craft nearly instantly. We're also going to need to give it some power. And then what it's going to do is it's going to, for example, if we need to make a regeneration potion, it's going to require the ingredients from left to right that you would typically have to use multiple stands for. So in this case, we need a guest here, but we also need awkward potions, which means we need wort. So to be able to brew this potion, we would need nether wort here, and then we'd also need a ghast here. In those order, from left to right, up into the higher tier potions. So that means we can build a pattern that actually does this. And believe it or not, whenever we go to make a pattern, it is specific from left to right in which the pattern will inject the ingredients. So if we have wort here first, it'll be the first thing that enters into an inventory that the pattern provider is connected to. And then next would be the ghast here in order from left to right, stepping down, then going from left to right, stepping down, then going from left to right, all the way through any of the custom processing patterns we make. So now if I define a potion like this, which is going to require 3 bottles in order to make 3 regeneration potions, we just need to make sure we have 1 of each product and we build that pattern. That's pretty straightforward. But you may have noticed an advanced pattern provider. Yes, we're going to have to utilize one of those again because this is side specific and it is going to be kind of a pain to do this any other way. But let me go ahead and show you. If I put this pattern in, we want to define our bottles to go into the right face of the machine. And I have found that this is the best way to do this. Also, placing a bucket inside the top slot will also help prevent these bottles from ending up in here, because this is where the jankiness comes into play. We want to make sure that the only place the input can go is on its right side. So to do this, I'm going to click the input button, and then I'm going to disable all of these by right-clicking, except for the right side. And then to make sure this is saved, I'm going to also click the input button again to close out that menu. Now for the input, we're going to be inputting from the bottom. So I'm going to make sure to disable everything except for the bottom input, and then make sure I click this button to save those settings. The output, we want this to be automatically pushed to the bottom. Now, if all is said and done, this should work whenever we tell our pattern encoder here to only send to the south face as well, which is going to be south face in my world specific to the right side of this machine. When we save this pattern, our bottles should only go into that slot. And the hope is that all of this works. So now whenever I craft myself a potion, let's do regeneration. The idea is that it's going to send those bottles into the correct slot, do the brew, and then automatically send the ingredients out and complete the craft. Now there is one more step we have to do, and that is we need to lock the crafter in a specific way. So I want to set this to this mode right here, locked crafting until primary crafting result is returned. That will prevent me from over-sending ingredients into the potion brewer, basically making sure it only sends one group at a time. And so with all of those complexities out of the way, we can basically generate any potion we want, any potion at this point now, just by simply making a pattern for it. And that is super powerful. So now I can just on demand request those potions. Oh yeah, I've done a lot of testing to actually get this working by the way. So yeah, in the process, I have made quite a bit of potions, as you can see here. But like I said, we can request more and more potions, and those will just go in and insert one at a time over and over again until all those potions are completed. Look at that. So now, after all of that information, if you've already forgotten what I'm working towards, it's actually making these hell shelves, which do require these potions of regeneration. So now I have access to those, and I can go ahead and I can start making up to 15 of these. So now with our potions automated, I can on demand craft hell shelves, and we really only need 15 of them. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but in the future we are going to need more, because after I place in these hell shelves, we need to start actually upgrading our enchanting table even further. So I'm going to get all of these placed in like that. And now whenever we craft ourselves a hell shelf like this, we should get an option to infuse. So you can see right here, the runes reveal all, and we have an infusion option. This is going to cost us a little bit of levels and also lapis. And speaking of levels, I think we should probably bring in one of our very, very full, at least it should be very, very full, obelisks. It's not really called an obelisk anymore, is it? The experience holder. Yeah, that has a lot of levels in it. Before I pick this up though, I do want to shift right click to copy the settings, and I'm going to just simply paste in a new one that doesn't have all of that in it. Oh wait, maybe I need to, hold on, break this one. There we go. Then place the new one down. That shouldn't have anything in it. And then right click with this to copy the settings. And now this should be working on its own and doing the exact same thing that we had before. It didn't seem to auto accept the experience collection. That's interesting. So I did have to turn that back on, but everything else seems to be working as normal and define the area. So in the windowsill, I'm going to place in my experience, and this is going to be really, really helpful for our enchanting setup here. So infusion, let's grab some lapis, and we need to start infusing our hell shelves like this. Ah, perfect. And believe it or not, just to get the basic enchantment library, all we need are 4 of them to make the first tier, and this is just great on its own. And voila, I now have all 4, and I want to go ahead and actually make this thing. So it is going to require a couple little things I got to craft. It looks like Eyes of Ender. Oh, we got so many of those. Ender chests. Perfect. Oh, by the way, Ender chest mod was recently added to the pack, but we're already using dimensional storage, so there's like no reason technically to change. Dimensional storage is great though. And honestly, it's kind of odd actually that, I mean, needing good old Ender storage, but especially after discovering how powerful it is to set channels like that. But I can totally see it. I can see it. But anyways, here we go. Enchanting table and library. Bam. Just like that, we have now entered into a new stage of enchanting, in my opinion. This thing right here is insanely powerful, and that's because it's power to just simply store enchanted books. So what we can do is attach a cable right here, just directly onto this, and then we'll use an export bus, and we could send enchanted books by using like a fuzzy card, for example, and just place an enchanted book in here. And what's going to happen is all of our enchanted books that ever enter our applied energistic system are going to get stored in here. And that also means it's going to take the value of all of the enchanted books. For example, if we had 2 Fortune 2 books, we could then go ahead and combine those 2 automatically inside of here, and we could just simply make a Fortune 3 book. Now, it is limited to the highest tier book that you have ever put into here. So it does come with a little bit of a caveat. We would have to, for example, to get like a Fortune 6, right? We would have had to have put a Fortune 6 in here at some point, which is easily doable if you just, for example, have enchantments coming in and you just combine them with an anvil. Now, where this is limited though, is in the amount of enchants that it can store. You see the storage points is where this tier sort of is limited, and then you go up to this, which has an incredibly large capacity. And you can see that level capacity right here, but this level capacity is still quite large. And I think the value represented here is 16, so this can store like a level capacity of up to 16, whereas this can go even higher, pushing all the way into 31 levels. Like that's ridiculously high there. But of course, another beautiful thing about this, right, is we don't have to worry about taking up our beautiful channels, right? With enchanted books, right? We can just dump them into this one block right here, and we have access to them whenever we want to create a custom tool. Speaking of custom tools, things that we can do is we can put a tool in here, and it will show us all of the enchants that can go on said tool. And if you wanted to make a book that contained multiple enchants, all you have to do is just select the ones that you want. It's that simple, and pull it out and put it back in. Notice it also didn't cost any levels to do that. So yes, you can build your ultimate enchantment setup with this block. So at this point, now we've basically figured out how we could do this. Now I went the route of using hell shelves and infused hell shelves, but technically you can also go the route of using the infused sea shelves. Both of them work basically in parallel. Now, it gets a little bit more challenging when we start to get up into the higher tier stuff. And this is where we actually are going to need to start mathing things. I know, math, right? But you can kind of play around with it and you can start to figure out different things. And we need to get to this very specific Eterna, Quanta, and Arcana levels in order to be able to infuse and make ourselves Dragon's Breath, which, by the way, is going to be required in the Aldemont Star. Now, of course, that's the ultimate goal, but there's actually some other things we have to worry about as well. And that is, how do we infuse a deep shelf? So we need to take a dormant deep shelf, which does require you to have skulk and all kinds of stuff in the future, but we need to figure out this level first. So this is where things get a little bit important, right? So we need to be at least at 60. So when it says at least, that means we can be higher than that. And you can see by that green bar, but this one requires at least 40 and this one requires at least 40. Now, there are some very specific rules that surround each individual shelf. For example, you can see the Eterna right here has a maximum that you can input from these shelves up to 30. So that means no matter how many of these dormant shelves that you place around your enchanting table, the max, so long as this is the highest one around, will only ever be 30. So then how are we supposed to get 60 if the max on this particular shelf is 30? Well, this is where in Apotheosis, we can actually use other things that are outside of Apotheosis to actually increase our Eterna, Quanta, and Arcana levels. So then how are we expected to get up to that 60 requirement here? That's where technically we can use things that are outside of Apotheosis to increase our levels. But also an infused hell shelf, by the way, does have a maximum of 60. So that means we can take all of these shelves and we can start to upgrade them one by one to eventually increase our setup here. So we can see our levels right here. So you notice with switching these to infused, we are now bringing up our Eterna, and as of right now, it's at 49. I keep adding to this though, and we're going to start to see that 49 increase, right? So now it's up to 55. And so now I have an entire area that is filled with these. Now we are bringing up our Quanta, and you can see our Quanta is at 75, but Arcana we're kind of suffering on. We actually don't have enough to be able to start this process. So how are we going to get our Arcana up? Also, how did you even get in here? And this can actually be helped out a lot by just simply crafting up some candles. Now, candles can be a little bit confusing because up front, it looks like it only gives you 1.25% on the candle. But remember, candles can be stacked into 4, which is going to give us a 5% boost. And you can see right here, this makes this process quite a lot easier. So now with just simply placing 8 stacks of candles like this, we are now exactly at the level that we need to be in order to infuse the next shelf. And so let's start our infusion. You can see right here, we now have the ability to start infusing and getting ourselves some actual deep shelves, which is going to be pretty important because this is what's going to allow us to meet the requirements for our next tier shelf. Now, the thing to keep in mind as we move forward, and we're just basically moving off the infused hell shelves, is that we actually need to work towards now making ourselves infused dragon's breath. And the level we need to get to here is 80, but this is where things change because we actually can't surpass 30% on our quanta. But thankfully, there's some things that can actually reduce the amount of quanta we have, and we just have to keep in mind those things. For example, melon shelves are great for that. But now remember I said the maximum capacity, for example, needs to be 80. The only way we're going to be able to achieve that is by using either an echo shelf or a soul touched shelf. Either one of these is going to be fine, but we have to have at least one of them to be able to reach that maximum of 80. So that means we need to take an echoing deep shelf like this, and we need to craft up into this. Now, I don't think it's going to really matter too much. I think we're going to probably go with the echoing is going to be a little bit easier to kind of counter, but we just place this in here and just automatically we're going to notice a huge change, right? We're at a turn of 55, 100. When we place this in, we went to 65. Our quanta is incredibly high, and so is our arcana. But there's a lot of ways that we can counter all of these. Now, believe it or not, there is actually a setup for this, and I have done this several times in past videos. But there is a very easy way to do this. It does require us to also go down to the sea shelf route, which is not going to be too difficult. And I do have 12 sea shelves, and we're going to have to infuse these sea shelves, by the way. So let's go ahead and grab some levels here, and we've just got to get all of these infused and turn them into heart forged sea shelves. That's because these heart forged sea shelves are missing quanta, right? We don't have a quanta stat on here. So getting 12 of these is going to be very helpful, and we just need to start exchanging things out. And really, all we're going to need is 2 echoing skulk shelves for this. And the rest of these can be completely moved. We can also get rid of these candles as we do not need them anymore. And this whole setup becomes really, really straightforward and simple. So these go straight down. We just leave our 2 echoing skulk shelves and fill the rest of this in. And we can place these 2 here. And we should be now exactly at the level that is required for us. So you see 100 Arcana, and everything sort of matches up where we are actually under the 30% threshold. Everything else is perfectly where it needs to be. And this will allow us to make Dragon Breath infusion bottles. So you can see there's the requirement right there. Let's make sure we have enough levels. And what else is required? It says infusion not met. Uh-oh, are we missing something? We should be exactly at the infusion threshold, right? 30%. Oh, we're a little bit over. Is something actually adding to this? So yeah, now I'm still not sure exactly what's causing this. I broke everything down and this had a base of 15 quanta automatically. Don't know if it's reading off of anything in particular. It shouldn't be, but I can actually get this down into the actual level by simply adding a single melon shelf, which takes off 10 quanta. You can see right here. So now we are within range, and now we get the infusion. So yes, the default should be here if this was set to 0, but I don't know why. Something is adding 15 quanta, but I don't have anything around. Either way, we can now take this and make ourselves infused dragon's breath. So this is going to allow us to actually make the highest tier shelf. But as of right now, this is where we need to be, right? This would be something that we would be able to upgrade if we had all of these requirements met. But honestly, I'm not in a super big need for this library just yet, but it is something that will be nice down the road. But as you can see, this is the infused dragon breath that is needed for the crafts for the star. So perfect. And it also looks like it's needed down the road here as well, even though I don't know. Oh, there must be a way to get it. Yeah, it looks like you can actually set a runic thing for it. I'm still trying to figure out this runic. We've not really gotten to that yet. It's going to be kind of cool though to be able to see this in action. Now remember also, this whole episode was more than actually just getting this stuff set up. Remember, I actually wanted to craft a fishing rod with some really good enchants, and we'll also be able to enchant our gear and get it set up very, very nice as well. But the primary thing I really want to do is just make a bunch of enchanted books for fishing rods. And Apotheosis also lets us do that, which is going to make things a little bit easier for getting all of those books. So if we go to the fishers, we can actually make tomes of the fishers, and then we can toss it in here, and notice we get some really high level enchants, like using just this setup alone. Now that we have this, all of this can be enchanted onto books, and we can just simply specify specifically those 4 fishing rods, put them all together like this, and then just toss that into our enchantment library. Like, this is where the power of Apotheosis really starts to shine, is through this right here. Notice, by the way, all the life mending. That's a really powerful enchant, by the way. Just all of this. And so let's go ahead and just take this now back down to our enchantment library, which I think I might end up moving, but for right now it's right here. And when I put all of these inside, we can now put a fishing rod, which I do recommend. If you are going to make a fishing rod, do a supremium rod. It's going to be a lot better for you. And then we can just start putting on the max level enchants. Look at that, Luck of the Sea. And if we have enough to put like 2 Luck of the Sea books at max level, remember we can use an anvil to combine these 2 books, and we'll get Luck of the Sea 6. And then whenever we put 6 back in here, now we get Luck of the Sea, right? We can actually pull out a Luck of the Sea 6. So that's kind of how that works, as I was explaining that before. But yeah, we can put Luck of the Sea on here, max that out. We can put Max Lure on here, all of this stuff. We don't have to worry about unbreaking because these are actually unbreakable. But yeah, those are the 2 things that we definitely want, Luck of the Sea and Lure. And honestly, it's as easy as just simply taking these ingredients out, these enchantments, tossing it in, and then just simply enchanting it. And voila, we now have a really powerful fishing rod. And then of course I can set up shop and I can start fishing. Almost immediately getting fish. Like, this is so quick compared to normal fishing methods. And I am going to have to manually fish like this, by the way, if I do plan on finding the treasure, which is going to allow me to make the time in the bottle, right? It's gonna take time. And do I need the time in the bottle? Not really, but it would be a nice, cool thing to have, right? So this is just one portion of that that's going to need to be done. Man, look how fast this fishing is. And so after a short time, I did end up getting a Neptune's bounty, and this is where we'll find these things, right? So inside of this, I just found a Neptune shovel, and yes, we can actually smelt this down. So no matter what you get, can be smelted down, and you can end up getting yourself the ingots from it, which will allow us to craft that Neptunium pickaxe. So I'd say this took me, I don't know, about 30 minutes, give or take, but I did end up getting 2 of the bounty boxes finally, but I don't know if all of them are going to contain, oh look, that contained 2, and we also ended up getting, was that a sword? Actually, where did it go? There it is, a fillet knife, okay. And yeah, this all gets turned into it, so perfect. So now we have exactly what we need to be able to make at least the Neptunium pickaxe. Now you may be asking yourself, can this be automated? I don't actually think so, because I have tried countless auto fishers and nothing really ever seemed to fish up the Neptunium bounty. However, it would fish up some of the other things, for example, like lock boxes and treasure chests, but those don't contain the Neptunium stuff. So beautiful. I'm just gonna go ahead and toss this down. Now we have enough to make the actual pickaxe. And that's the thing that we need. Bam. Well, at least one thing that we need. As there's still one mod that we really, or 2 mods we really haven't gone into that are going to be required for the time in the bottle. And like I said, the time in the bottle is not necessarily something that I'm super going after. It just is something that we will get whenever we get through these mods. And for example, the Vengeant pickaxe is actually relatively easy to get, requiring just a little bit of evil craft to go into, and you can see it has an innate Fortune 5 on it. Now, Isnium is a little bit different. This is like late game occultism, or I guess kind of like mid to late game, sort of. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully you learned something new, whether that was about the Apothic enchanting, or about how to set up Ars portals, or how to go about fishing and generating enchantments and applying them to your stuff, because this honestly was one of the biggest upgrades we got today. So if you did learn something, click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. And then also don't forget, it is World Download Day, so definitely check out the World Download over on the Discord if you are a supporter of any tier. And with that, speaking of supporters, it's now time to thank the supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Pimishka. I think I said that right. Thank you so much for your amazing support. And of course, choosing to support me over on the Discord by, of course, becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. And with that, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.